Simon & Schuster Audio presents The Terminal List, a thriller. Book 1 of the Terminal List series by Jack Carr, read by Ray Porter, with a foreword read by the author.
Foreword. Luck is the residue of preparation. The story behind the Amazon Prime Video series adaptation of The Terminal List. How did you do this? That's a question I get quite often, and one I am getting more and more as new readers and listeners discover The Terminal List and become part of my protagonist's journey, and in a sense, a part of my journey as well. How did your debut novel, The Terminal List, become an Amazon Prime Video series starring Chris Pratt, directed by Antoine Fuqua? If you are interested in that story, keep listening. The story of the novel you're listening to goes back to my earliest days, with parents who made reading a natural part of my life. My mother was, and is to this day, a librarian, so I grew up surrounded by books and developed a love for reading. My paternal grandfather was a Marine Corsair pilot, killed in the Pacific in World War II. I grew up with photos of him and his squadron, his medals, his wings, and his issued escape and evasion maps. My dad and I watched Black Sheep Squadron on television, which was our connection to him and the greatest generation through the medium of popular culture. I was determined to one day serve my country in uniform. Around that same time, I found out about Navy SEALs. There was not much written back in the early 80s about the SEAL teams. You had to dig and put in the effort in the days before the internet. For me, that meant trips to the library with my mom, learning how to research. It was there in the stacks that I began my study of warfare, specifically special operations, irregular warfare, and terrorism. The 1970s and 1980s were a proving ground for international terrorism on the world stage. With the 1970 Dawson Field hijackings, the 1972 Olympics Munich massacre, the 1976 raid on Entebbe, Desert One, and Princess Gate in 1980, the 1983 U.S. Embassy bombing in Beirut, followed months later by the bombing of the Marine barracks and the subsequent U.S. Embassy bombing in Kuwait. William Buckley's 1984 abduction in Beirut, TWA Flight 847, the Achille Laurel hijacking, the Italy...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?